Welcome to Shift Happens. This is the podcast that riffs off the previous episode of Bullshift by looking at it with a deep dive into what you can do about understanding how Bullshift exists in the marketplace today and how you can change your own behavior with specific, tangible action items to change the way you do things for your finances. We talked on Friday of last week with Ryan Munson about how there's a lot of people getting their advice online through people that are called Finfluencers, financial influencers, people who have a YouTube page, who offer their thoughts on TikTok, and who post things on X, and who in general are social media darlings because they have multiple followers and get people to do what they recommend people do. The question that it begs is, what should you as a person, and let's be clear here, we're talking about mostly young people that are, let's say, 35 and under. What should you be doing when you're learning to improve your financial literacy? And we've talked a lot about financial literacy on Bullshift over the years. And the first thing that I would say is you should be skeptical. And again, as Ryan says, I'm not trying to paint everyone with the same brush. There are some people who are online who do an excellent job of teaching people and helping people and providing good information and good context, and they frame things properly, and it's all great. But there are some others that are not so great. And what you have to do is you have to be able to exercise some critical thinking in sussing out those that are giving you good information and those that have perhaps an ulterior motive. And the thing that I always like to say is follow the money. If there's a sponsor to the YouTube channel, or if there's any kind of a product that's being sold, you should be skeptical about the advice you're receiving. There are lots of people who hold themselves out as gurus. And there's an old joke in the financial services industry that when they ask you, well, why are there so many people who call themselves a guru? And the answer is because the word charlatan is too hard to spell. There are lots of people, therefore, who give advice who are not really to be trusted. So I've given you the first thing to do is to be critical and to think critically about what it is you're hearing, and to sort of use your spidey senses to see if this makes sense. The second thing that I would encourage you to do is to look up the topic from an independent source. So if someone wants to talk to you about mortgage pay downs or paying down non-deductible debt or whatever else, Google the phrase and see if you can get some other bits of information. Maybe go to Wikipedia and learn about a concept. If someone talks to you about, what did we talk about, extra financial considerations, which is what we talked about with Ryan. If someone talks about that, and that's a phrase that I hadn't heard of previous to meeting Ryan, what do? You look up the phrase and you read about it so you can have a better sense of what it means and how it applies to you. So think critically and look for third-party validation to get a better handle on what it is that you're trying to find out about. The irony is that even though a lot of people are getting a lot of information online, it is also, even though it's a very widely sought out source, it is also the least trusted source. So that alone should give you pause. By all means, I'm a strong proponent of getting financial information from as many sources as possible, but try to and look for different people and look for different viewpoints. Part of what I talk about all the time on Bullshift is that it's important to challenge conventional orthodoxy, but it's also important to recognize that sometimes orthodoxy is there for a reason, and you need to be able to ferret out what's real and what's not so real. And that means doing your homework in the way that it was intended originally, looking for legitimate third-party sources that can validate what you're saying as opposed to just what's popular online. We'll see you next week.
John DeGuy is a portfolio manager with Design Securities in Toronto. He is the author of both Bullshift, How Optimism Bias Threatens Your Finances, and Stand Up to the Financial Services Industry, Protecting Yourself from Well-Intended but Oblivious Advisors. The books are available online and in bookstores everywhere. The opinions expressed on Bullshift and Shift Happens should not be construed as investment advice. You can reach John at jdegui@designsecurities.ca or at 647-STAND-UP. That's 647-782-6387.